Yes. What's up, guys? Straight from the chest. My name is Justin Groth, and I want to welcome you to another episode, guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for giving me your listening ear. It's greatly appreciated on my end. For those of you who are new, again, welcome. And for those of you who are old and have been listening for any length of time, thank you. Again, I'm indebted to you. Thank you for your time. It's something you'll never get back, and I'm just so honored that you would spend it listening to me. Let's be honest. I don't speak oftentimes with the most positivity, but what I will give you and what I am just anchored in is truth. And that's one thing that I'll never sway away from, even if it is with large contention. I'll always speak truth. And it's hard. It's hard to do that because there are some things that I want to what I feel I can handle in terms of a backlash, because I'm not 100% armored up and resilient to anything that comes my way. And I think I'm not, because I care a lot. And sometimes it can come across as that I don't care, I don't give a shit. And the truth is I do. But there are certain things that I don't care if you react a certain way to, because it's more important to me to get it out, and it's more important to me that you hear it, and it's more important to me that it pierces you rather than makes you feel good and fluffy inside, because maybe you need that piercing in order to progress. And that's the truth. That's raw truth. We all need that. And the reality is we search things or extract things that we know are going to make us feel only good. And I'm on board with that, but I also feel there's a time that you need to do the exact opposite, because you know that if you don't, you're going to be complacent, or you're going to consistently only get what you've got. And let's be honest, that's probably not good enough for you. You want more. You want to achieve more. You want to bring out or identify with what God's given you. And that takes some serious contention on your end. That's going to take not action. That's going to take you being brave. And that's going to take a fight, just a little bit. But the fight is worth it. The fight is necessary. The fight is only there to show you what you're made of. But once you understand what you're made of, you have that confidence in you to know that if you ever come across another boulder, you have what it takes to lift it up and throw it in front of you and make your path clear again. But it's not going to come without you actually going against your grain just a little bit, and then a little bit comes a little bit more, and then a little bit more becomes a lot, and before you know it, you've stepped into your identity. That wasn't supposed to be said. I honestly wanted to go into a We're Not Friends segment right out of the gate, but that just presented itself. But guys, I mean, I stand by what I said, and I think there's more I want to touch on that with, but that wasn't a part of the podcast at all. But I think that sometimes it's best to just say what's on the heart, and that was on my heart, so you got it. But anyways, guys, I gotta We're Not Friends. I gotta say this. This is something that has bothered me and I think it bothers a lot of you too. You know who I'm talking about when I say these people, when I present this type of a scenario. We're not friends if you do not know how to end a conversation. You don't know how to shut it down. We're not friends. I try to be the most receiving with people, and I love interacting with people. I really do. Wholeheartedly. I am grateful for conversations with people, especially when they're deep and there's something of of constant with them. I am grateful for them. I'm grateful if they give me any kind of praise, obviously, because I'm sure you're grateful for them as well when they give you praise. But, at the same time, there's got to be an ending. And sometimes they don't know how to end it. And you have to start to end it with your body language of sorts, like, because they're not getting the hint with your words. And it's like, this reminded me of this because I'm overhearing, I'm not eavesdropping, I promise you, but I'm overhearing a conversation the other day. And I was out somewhere, I was overhearing the conversation, and this guy he's talking to a female, but this guy is, he's selling something, but it's like he sold it already to her, and he still keeps talking and extending the conversation, and you can tell she's trying to wrap it up, but she's very nice, and she's fancying him in a diplomatic and respectful and appropriate way, not inappropriate at all, but he just doesn't get the hint that she's wrapping it up, and he doesn't want to shut it down. So she's saying something of closure, and he's, well, yeah, and he starts going off on a different tangent. It's like, guy, just shut it down. That's one thing that just bugs the shit out of me. Like, know when to shut it down, man. Just, and also, my girlfriend knows this about me very, very well. Don't linger. I can't stand lingering. Like, do what you gotta do and then move on. Like, you know what I mean? Like, have the conversation, close it down, move on. Like, so anyways, you can't shut it down. We're not friends. Know how to shut it down. And sometimes that's a problem for me. Like, I extend a topic and I shouldn't even elaborate on it any further, but I do, and so I'm learning too, guys. I'm learning too. But at the same time, like, face-to-face conversation, you can't read body language, that's a problem. Learn how to read body language, learn how to read tonality, learn how to read how a person is ending a conversation. And walk away, man. That's it, done, bye. But, speaking of lingering, we can linger in things in life, man. We can linger in certain seasons that we weren't expecting it to last this long. We can linger in relationships. We can linger in jobs. We can linger. Oh my gosh, we can just linger. But this kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the very beginning that wasn't planned. But guys, when it comes to finding your lot in life and finding what serves meaning to you, something that you can be proud of, because we all search for that. We all search for something that we can be proud of that gives us direction and meaning. We all search for that, and we search for acceptance. You may not want to admit to the last one, but it's true. We're a human being. We want to find a tribe that fits us best. So that is revolving around acceptance. But apart from that, the first one, it's very important to understand. We search for meaning. We search for purpose. Purpose is inevitably meaning. But what makes your life worth living, that's what you search for. Some people never find it. And they go their entire life and they never actually find what gives them meaning, because they get swallowed up in what's providing a means to them. Meaning wealth, monetary recruitment. Like, they put the cart before the horse, in other words. And if you've been listening to me for any length of time, you know how against that I am, and how much I want to thrive with monetary recruitment as well. Like all of us, we could do more if we have more money. I get it. And that's what I want also, just like you. But I'm not willing to sacrifice my life's meaning for it. Or I'm not willing to convolute it with something of ulterior motives because I know that that's going to lead right now to more fruitful monetary endeavors. If I'm not passionate behind it, and I know that word gets thrown out there a lot, and it's kind of like meaningless now because everybody says, oh, I got passion for this when they really don't. Passion is also, I think, attributed to having heart with something. If your heart is not in it, how can you be passionate about it? Just because you like it, because it's your hobby, that's not being passionate. But when you have your heart involved with something and it's deeply, viscerally passionate to you, you follow that almost with a blind follow, because you don't care about the money that it produces. You only want to do it because you have some type of emotional attachment, infatuation, obsession wrapped around it. And that's the reason why you venture in that avenue. That's the reason why you're directed there. That's the reason why you're pulled in that direction, because you have an infatuated obsession behind it, and you can't not do it. Because also what's happening is that infatuated obsession, because it's so viscerally centered to you in a meaningful stance, that gives you identity in the process. And that identity is what we search for. That's meaning. That's purpose. But there's a quick way to not get there. The quickest way to not getting there is believing what others tell you about you. And, well, let's be clear. Believing what others tell you about you to fit you in their bubble of what they think about you. That's wrong. It's a quick way to not get there. And not picking your sword up. It takes action, but not action alone. It takes action and it takes heart to pick up your sword and follow in the path that may be filled with contention with others, but it's most honorable to you. It has the most value and ethical stance to you. It's something that you can be proud of. It's something that you have the attachment behind. It's something that is deeply, viscerally important to you. And there is no motive standing on the sidelines calling you to do it. The motive is that you can't not do it. That's the difference behind finding meaning and finding a job. You need to send applications out to get a job. And I'm not downplaying getting a job, because having a job is great. And sometimes that leads into your meaning in life. But if your job is one that you're just lingering in for a lengthy season that should have been over with like a decade ago, then that's where I have a problem with. Because you're not leading into life's meaning. Because you're standing on the sidelines. Because you're scared to pick up your sword. Because your sword is one that's a little heavy and it's kind of sharp. And you might hurt yourself with it. But that's necessary. Sometimes you get cut by your own sword. That's necessary. That's called being brave and being resilient to whatever is attached to that sword. Because again, you can't not do it. You can't not pick your sword up and live with yourself. You can't. You can't live with yourself in a state of meaning if you don't pick your sword up. You don't get it. I don't think you understand how vital it is to actually do something of meaning in your life, but before you do it, you need to search for it, and that search is super important, The search is also hard because it requires you to pick your sword up. And it requires you not get uncomfortable, all that. But let's be a little bit more intrinsic here. It calls you to not be cautious. It calls you to not stand in complacency. It calls you to strive for just a little bit more. It calls you to take on some responsibility. It calls you for actual meaning. But you'll never understand what that could be if you always just linger in a season. And your sword, man, maybe your sword could be starting that business, that online business. Your sword could be opening up your own salon. That sword could be building a website that's going to be able to, like a merchant website that you can sell stuff on. Like that sword could be anything. And that sword is not the end. It's not the means to an end. It's the means to the beginning. But in order for you to start tapping into your abilities, for you to start to identify what actually gives your life meaning and what's worth living for, you'll never. People say happy, are you happy? It's not about being happy, it's about having meaning. But having meaning to your soul means you're here for a reason and your life's not a complete waste. But in order to seek that meaning out, in order to understand and identify it, you have to do something that's hard. You have to do something that people are like, no, don't do that. And it's actually a process, and there's some grit involved, and there's an element of gumption and tenacity that you have to extract from. Like, that's what life is about. It's not about let's just live and linger in this season for far too long because we're comfortable here. I get being comfortable, but at some point, if you want to see what you're made of, you're going to have to run the risk of getting cut by your own sword when you pick it up. And that's just the reality. You don't want to live in regret. But above regret, you don't want to live without unraveling what God gave you to live for. He gave you something to live for. He didn't just give you, he just didn't give you what you have now, your house and all that. I mean, that's great, but there's more to your life, man. There's legacy for you to leave. There's a meaning behind you waking up every morning. Why do you wake up every morning? Why do you wake up every morning? If there's not an incentive behind waking up anymore every morning, if there's not an incentive, like a passionate, visceral incentive attached to what you're doing, why are you doing it? What's the point? Humans have to have a point to their madness. They have to have a meaning behind it. If there's no meaning, and if it's not leading into a meaning, what's the point? Your life wasn't established to just get by. You were called to leave a mark on the planet. That's why God created you. He didn't just create a bunch of people just to fill the earth up. People are procreating, but each person that's created was created with intent. And it's your job to find what your meaning is in life. And I'll give you a shortcut to do it. Attempt to do something that is out of the ordinary for you, that you feel viscerally passionate about, and do it with intent, and do it consistently. Even if it's something small, do it. Attempt attempt it with intent, consistently, do that for a year and tell me you don't have more identity flourishing through your spirit as a result. I know you will. But you have to step out in faith and you have to grab your sword and you have to go after what you're called for. And that means centering yourself with what it takes to be meaningful and give meaning and contribution to life, to people. That's how you leave your legacy. That's how you find your purpose. What's your contribution to this planet? Your contribution is tethered to your meaning in life. And you won't find the meaning if you don't step out in faith and if you don't grab your sword and if you're not willing to get nicked or slayed by it. You have to do the slaying. But in order for you to slay your dragons, you have to pick up your sword. Jesus says, take your cross up. This is my version. This is the new modernized version. It's the same thing. I'm not going above him by saying this, but I'm just saying it in a way that maybe you can understand. You slay your lion, you slay your demon, you slay your dragon, whatever you want to call it. But to do so, you pick up your sword and you find life's meaning by picking that sword up and showing yourself what you're made of. You slowly build a confidence and you slowly build an awareness with what's encapsulated in your identity. And you find your meaning and you thrust through that meaning and you do it perpetually. Every single day you get closer and closer to it. You keep attempting at that thing you're so passionately involved with. And you attempt with intent and you do it consistently, man. You're laying bricks. You're building your wall. There's going to come a day where God's going to see that you're ready. And he's going to take your meaning and your purpose to a whole nother trajectory. But he's got to see that you're willing to step out in faith. You're willing to not be so cautious. You're willing to not be so cautious with the gifts that he's given you, with the abilities that he's manifested within you. He's got to see that you're brave, that you're courageous, that you live behind the contention that you have within you. You live behind that. You have purpose, you have structure, you have foundation, and you're willing to go against the grain. He's got to see that you're ready to get out of complacency. He's got to see that you're ready to trust him with the things that you can't do, that only he can provide. Because trust me, I promise you, when you step into that new door, it's not going to be by your hand, it's going to be by his. But he's got to see that you're ready. And this is how you get ready. You attempt something that you feel viscerally passionate about, and you do it with intent, and you do it consistently. You take on responsibility, and that's how you see. That's how the meaning besets you. You walk into it. You slowly start to identify and break down who you are and what your identity is. He's calling you, and he's telling you, look, man, trust in me, dude. Trust in me. Be obedient to where I'm guiding you in your mind and in your heart and your spirit and your gut and your conscience. He's guiding you, and you're not listening. You're not listening because you're listening to these other people on the sidelines that are telling you, look, man, you want to make a fast buck? Do this. And you got to provide for your family, and I understand, but there's a way to do it. And by you saying, I'm going to go in this avenue, you're saying, I don't trust you, God. I don't trust you. Who are you? I can do this alone, and you can't. And that's where you're wrong. God's telling you, pick your sword up. Trust me. Even if you get cut in the process, I'm going to make it worth it. Done.